Hello, my name is UGScope, and welcome to the update showcase for our next Ethereal Clash of Souls Open Alpha playtest. We received a lot of constructive feedback from the previous open test back in May, and we wanted to take those ideas and use them to shape Ethereal into something bigger and better than it has ever been before. Now, after months of hard work and dedication, we are ready to show off our newest updates to the community with another Open Alpha weekend. The servers will be open exclusively to our Patreon supporters on September 9th, and then we'll be opening the server to everyone and anyone the following weekend on September 15th, 16th, and 17th. Until then, here is a sneak peek on what has changed and what we have in store for our players. The biggest and most noticeable change to Ethereal is the upgrade from Unreal Engine 4 to Unreal Engine 5. Players will immediately notice the use of Unreal Engine 5's lighting and reflection tools to highlight Elysium's beauty the moment they spawn into a match, with the gold trim in each of the bases being more vibrant and metallic, and the dynamic shadows adding more visual depth and complexity to the surrounding environment. We were also able to use colorization tools to make the lane minions stand apart from each other and their environments. By adjusting the saturation and brightness of the minion's armor, we were able to make it easier for players to distinguish between light and dark minion waves at a quick glance, and also reduce any potential advantage that certain teams might get with the dark lane minions blending in with the fire lane colors, or the light lane minions blending in with the ice lane colors. We used those same colorization tools to give ice lane a visual overhaul, making it look more natural, while also improving how clearly objectives appear in contrast to the environment. While we are still using white snow as the basis for ice lane's color palette, we are adding more blue ice patches, brown pine trees, beige pathways, and gray stone walls to prevent the snow from being too overbearing and to add more diversity to the visuals. We are going to keep pushing the limits of this new engine's capabilities to make the game look as stunning as it possibly can without sacrificing performance, since we want all players to have a consistent experience across all machines and are aiming to optimize the game as efficiently as possible to meet that goal. The next big improvement we are introducing for the open test is our newly revamped Ward and Vision system. Fog of War has been fully implemented into the game, meaning that minions, myths, and jungle monsters will not appear on the map or mini-map until they are within a certain range from you or allied minions. We have also completely improved ward functionality in the game, with new animations and visual effects to show when a ward has successfully been placed and how much of the map is revealed to your team. Wards can be placed on any solid ground and will last for 3 minutes before they expire and vanish. While active, wards will reveal all enemies within a certain range, regardless of their proximity to you on the map, and will reveal the area directly above them to disrupt the vertical advantage that Reapers and Sky Slayers have over other classes. You do need to be strategic about ward placement though, since enemy myths can see your wards for a few seconds after they have been placed, and have the opportunity to destroy them within that time limit. However, at a reduced cost of only 25 gold per ward, these little deployables can reasonably be purchased at any stage of the game without hindering anyone's build progress, and can really turn the tide in the favor of the team with the most vision. Wards are not the only items that are seeing a game-changing overhaul. Primary spells have been removed from the game, thus removing a button press for our players to account for. Along with this change, the 2 starter items for junglers and supports, Marks and Masks, have been rebalanced to streamline the experience when playing these roles. Both item trees have had their active effects removed, and have received passive adjustments to compensate for these changes. With the removal of the Mark active, it now falls on the job of the entire team to secure objectives and close out games. The active effects that existed on the prior versions have also been redesigned as similar passives, allowing players to still fine-tune their playstyle as the game progresses. Lastly, we have completely removed the boots and shoes trees from the game. Each of their unique Tier 3 passives will be added to appropriate items, and all players will gain bonus movement speed as they level up in the early game to compensate for the lost movement speed from the items themselves. But since players are no longer pressured into purchasing boots or shoes as their first full item just for the additional movement speed, we are excited to see which items they will gravitate towards first to kick off their builds. Another feature we are excited to introduce is the auto-buy and auto-level systems. We wanted the game to feel accessible to new players, especially to those who are joining us for the first time during this upcoming playtest, and we felt that players could not really experience the game to its full potential if half their time was spent reading over myth abilities and in-game items. To help players get right into the action, We have implemented an auto-buy feature that immediately purchases recommended items for you every time you go back to your base, and an auto-level feature that will allocate the skill points you earn from leveling up into each myth's most frequently used abilities. These two features are enabled by default, but can be turned off in the in-game settings menu at any point, so you are still free to experiment with each myth and different item builds. Speaking of experimenting with myths, I would like to introduce the lead gameplay developer for Ethereal, UG Skifter, to talk about the new kit that was designed for Talos, the Primal Vessel.
Hey everyone, UG Skifter here. Our last open test expanded the roster of playable myths from the original 7 to a whopping 10, including Malware, Kalia, and Exial. While we do not have any new myths for this update, instead players can expect to see a familiar face with a few new tricks up his sleeve. To accompany his new model and visual effects you all saw in the last test, Talos has gotten a gameplay kit rework to help solidify his role as a fighter and a juggernaut. This update allows him to deal damage more efficiently while also be able to stand his ground against his most fearsome enemies. Talos loves to get into the thick of teamfights, where he can command his presence over enemies with his massive AoE damage and his harsh crowd control effects. Talos is a unique myth in that he uses stamina instead of mana. Stamina is a stat that regenerates extremely slowly in combat, and exponentially increases out of combat. Stamina does not benefit from any resource regen gained from items, instead gaining benefit from utilizing the myth's kit to their fullest potential. Talos' passive, Scavenging Huntsman, grants him permanently stacking armor and magic resist every time he gets a takedown on an enemy myth. He also gains bonus attack speed for the next 2 basic attacks after he casts an ability. These empowered basic attacks are what refund a small amount of stamina, allowing him to cast more abilities and weave in more basic attacks to keep his stamina at usable levels. Due to each ability being able to be recast, spacing his abilities out grants maximum efficiency for Talos in a fight. Huntsman's Axe is Talos' first ability. This ability is a line skill shot where Talos slams his axe on the ground, dealing damage in front of him to all targets hit. If he hits at least one target with this ability, Talos can recast to send a flaming skill shot projectile that deals damage to all targets it passes through based on their max health. For Talos' second ability, Subjugation, he thrusts his axe forward, dealing damage to the first target hit, slowing and grounding them for a duration if the target was a myth. For a short period after, this ability can be recast on the same target to shred a percentage of their armor. If the target was a myth, the slow and the ground effect get reapplied. Radial Sever causes Talos to spin his axe rapidly around him, dealing massive AoE damage and pulling all targets closer to him. When recast, Talos gains a shield, which increases in value based on how many targets he pulled with the initial cast. Use this ability to quickly disrupt teamfights and interrupt important ability casts of your enemies. Frenzy is Talos' special ability, which grants a self buff that increases his damage output while also increasing the stamina costs of his abilities. When the buff expires, Talos is exhausted and is heavily slowed for a short duration, while he regains his strength. Talos' ultimate ability is called Fearless. He launches himself across the battlefield to a target location, slamming down his axe, causing a massive rupture and dealing damage to all targets hit. If at least one myth was hit by this ability, all targets that remain in the effect radius after a short delay will be knocked up into the air. Talos is a strong early game myth who loves to harass his opponents with Huntsman's Axe and catch players off guard with a quick subjugation to stop their escapes. Getting into the thick of a fight with Fearless allows Talos to keep targets under his control while he dominates with his other skills. A quick Radial Sever after landing Fearless on a large group of enemies will guarantee that they get knocked up for your team to follow up on. Landing abilities and being able to basic attack is key to keeping his stamina at healthy levels to keep his damage output going throughout an entire fight. Getting crowd controlled can interrupt this gameplay, so make sure to dodge enemies' key abilities and pick up some extra persistence from the item shop to reduce the effectiveness of those spells' crowd control effects. Talos loves to output massive amounts of damage while remaining hard to kill. Items such as Berserker Shield and Giant Slayer Axe grant damage and survivability that are core to Talos' game plan. While Talos is the star of the show this time around, there are many additional myths that we will be adding to Ethereal in the near future. We are actively working on more than 5 myths that will soon make their way into Elysium. If you want more updates on all those upcoming myths, be sure to join the Patreon, as developmental updates will be posted there, including work in progress videos, gameplay kit reveals, feedback requests, and much more. Now, back to Scope with some more updates.
The last new feature we want to show off is our initial iteration of the PostMatch Screen. This quick display at the end of every match will show a broad summary of player stats, from the myths everyone played, to their kill death assist counts, to final item builds. We felt that it was important to contextualize how players participated in a match and allow them to review the key elements that led to either a victory or defeat. By organizing it and consolidating it into a single screen that is presented after the match is over, players can better grasp the events of the match in a new light while the match is still fresh in their minds, and be able to take what is presented to them into their future games to ultimately improve their gameplay. Although this feature is new and in an extremely simple state, we already have plans to add more detailed information in the near future. Let us know what stats you would like to see in the post-match screen in the comments below. We have quite a few more surprises in store for you all. Be sure to follow us on social media to keep up to date on new reveals and announcements leading up to our open playtest. Make sure to also mark your calendars for September 9th, when UG Skifter and UG Armadillon will be hosting a community corner to answer your questions before the servers open up for our Patreon members. And September 15th, when the servers will be completely open for anyone to play Ethereal for the rest of the weekend. See you in Elysium.